Hey, this is Ihab. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to photo merge HDR images using Lightroom and Photoshop. So if you are in Lightroom, you go to Library and then you go to Import. You select the folder that you want, Control A to select all of them, and then hit Import. You can select on the images Control A, and then you either click Control or Command H or right mouse button, photo merge, and then HDR. And then you have low, medium, and high. I'm not sure what's the differences between them. I'm assuming that it should give you the option to get a higher bit rate, which would be very important if you're looking for the HDR for the reason of getting a higher DP, higher bit images. Then it would be really good to have that option. But sometimes you just need to apply that photo merge just to get a more beautiful image. So I personally prefer the, you can just click on merge and then it does the merging, but I personally prefer Photoshop because it gives you more control over the results. So if you go to automate and then you go to merge to HDR Pro, so here are my images. Click OK. Then it gives you the option of getting, you can see here. So that's what I'm assuming the case would be in Lightroom, where it gives you 8 versus 16 or 32. At least I hope that's the case, because this is very important to have. So 8-bit, you can make this merge for the sake of something more beautiful. Kind of the main idea of the HDR photo merge is that you get multiple exposures all together, so the image looks very close to how complicated the viewing of a scenery is, close to the human eye, where we can see the exposure in the back. Like you can see this image here, it shows you I cannot really like uncheck these. I can show you the images separately. So in this example here, for instance, you can see that the main idea that I had this shot is to have more saturation on the sky, because if you were to take the images in a way that it shows these in ideal lighting condition, then you lose the sky completely. So the reason for the photo merge is to have an image that has the darker spots showing properly and the brighter spots showing properly. So the sky is super bright. You want to have something that is really fast to show it, and then this area is really dark, so you need to have a slower shutter speed. So ideally you would have at least three shutter steps between the images. So this one, you can see it shows kind of the field and also like the trees a little bit more illuminated. There's this kind of carriage that sort of moves around, so sort of sometimes it happens that way, but it should be okay. Some photo merges, they combine images of like 5 exposures or even 7 exposures. If you have like multi-dimensional kind of or multi-planes in the dimension of the image, so sort of like you have something that is here and then something that's further that is kind of darker, so or lighter, whatever the situation is. So again, one of the reasons for the photo merge is sometimes just to get a more beautiful shot. You can go here to the presets, and that's something I really like better about Photoshop. You can sort of have a lot of those presets and sort of mess around with those images and stuff. So you get something beautiful like this. You can change also the exposure. So changing the attributes here, or the kind of the options, would be really convenient, especially that it's not gonna ruin your image quality, because you are dealing with 8 bits plus 8 bits plus 8 bits. So you get a lot of bits where manipulating the image doesn't really tax you in terms of the quality. But after you do the merging, then that's it, it's fixed. But if you go into 16, that's gonna allow you to make the photo merge into a more beautiful shot, but also you could, after you merge it, you could still apply some decent amount of photo editing without taxing you with a lot of quality loss. And the most ideal, which is gonna be the 32-bit. Now with 32-bit, to maintain the image to be accurate and sort of like realistic and believable, you no longer have those kind of fancy options, because these are just kind of for the sake of making the image more beautiful. But with the 32, it is meant to be an image that has the lighting values, like, you know, having everything kind of obtained in a way that is serving into creating an image that has realistic and believable lighting value, and also in the meantime it gives you the option to do a lot of manipulation. So let me show you a quick example here. So if I have the 8 bits, right, and I am happy with this result, and I save this image, and it looks great whatsoever. So you can see now it's much more beautiful than the actual images, because it blends the exposure of the sky. Now I have clouds. In the meantime, I have these bright enough that I can see the details on them, and that's the beautiful part about HDR. But if I go to, for instance, levels or curves, and then I do some sort of like some sort of manipulation to the images, and here I'm taking it to the extreme just for the sake of demonstration, okay, and I hit OK, it has applied those changes, right? So if I go to levels, and then I would say, okay, let's fix what I have done here, or let me do this. So if you zoom in now, you see these changes here where the quality of the image has been ruined. So if I undo, you can see the sky actually, like the clouds right away. If I undo, this was before the compression that I had with the levels, just for the sake of demonstrating the quality loss. And that's because we have only 8 bits. And with 8 bits, we have a limited number of color or illumination values. So the pixelation or the pixels, they can only retain a certain amount of information, right? But if I were to close this and then do the photo merging again with 32 bits, so here's HDR and then browse. Okay, so here are my images. Hit OK. And then if I do the photo merging using 32 bits, you would see a drastic difference. Like even if you got only 16 bits, it would still be much more flexible and usable in terms of editing and sort of pushing the limits of the image rather than 8 bits. So let's go with 32. And you have some sort of like, you know, possibility to change some of the exposure here. So if you go and click OK. So let's compare the same torturing process. So I'm gonna go to the levels and do this. And I'm gonna push it actually like really extremely, even more than what I did on the 8 bits. Okay? So now I just butchered that image. Let's go back to the levels and then see how much information I can still get out of it. Okay, and hit OK. So I have just slaughtered the quality of this image. Let's check out the quality. Like it has lost some of the information, but keep in mind that I pushed the compression a lot higher than I had on the previous one, and I still have a much better image.